Pottery's been around for thousands of years. It's the base of civilization. I'm proud to be part of that history. I've been working on this vase line here for the last 2 years, using clean lines for the body shape, the little detail for the lip, and a tight foot to make it look as though the pot were almost floating. My name's Andrew Cummins. I'm a potter living in an art colony called The Wave in Ventura, California. I've been here for the past 2.5 years doing Raku firings in my pottery. Today we're going to learn a little bit more about what I do. Well, I started in high school, and it was my teacher, the first teacher I had, came up behind me like one of the first days I was throwing and just kind of like put his hand on my shoulder and just said, "You're my first round draft pick." And I don't know, just since then I loved it. I love playing with clay. I mean, I've always loved playing with clay and getting dirty, but that was a moment that stands out in my head of encouragement and promotion for me doing what I love. The throwing body that I use is called Soldate 60, made by a guy named Paul Soldner, who recently passed away. It really holds through the stresses of the Raku firing, of the quick temperature increase that I give it, along with water that I splash on it directly afterwards. So it holds up through those intense conditions and really is a good clay. There's 3 main processes of throwing, the bisque fire, and the glaze fire. The bisque fire being the most simple because you just take your thrown and trimmed piece and then bisque fire it. You start with centering, which is leaning over the clay and putting your whole body force into it with your hands cupped around it. And you're pushing through the clay. You actually push the clay off center to get it on center, which is like one of those Zen type of philosophies that's like, it doesn't make sense until you do it. But you got to push through the clay and push it off center, and as you push it off center, what comes out below your palm is on center. So after that, you find the center of the clay and make the well, which is taking your hands, or your fingers I should say, and at the center point of the top of the mound and pushing down almost to the bottom. You want to leave about a finger length of clay at the bottom so you have a bottom of a pot. You just don't go all the way down to the wheel head. And after you've done that, you pull out the clay just a little bit to give the width of the bottom of the pot. And then you create a wall on the inside. And that wall stays where it's at. And what you're doing is pinching the clay from the outside to that inside wall and steadily lifting it up. And you do that over and over. I mean, like I said, Jen Chi Wu can do that in 3 pulls. She can lift a whole pot to the thickness it's supposed to be, which is about 1/4 inch or less, in 3 pulls. I trim a tight little foot, which is almost bordering on a sculptural end, I think, to the point where I trim it almost to where it falls off. And I do lose a number of pieces because the foot falls off, just because I trimmed too much. So once you've trimmed your piece, you let it dry to bone dry, and then you're ready to bisque fire. And that just takes the water out, makes your piece ready to glaze. And then glazing is, and could be, endless chemistry fun for you if you want. Mixing of chemicals and compounds, testing on hundreds of test tiles with endless time put into it if you want to. I personally use a standard industry glaze that does what I found to be about 20 different effects. And I was very happy with this glaze, so I've used it now for about 4 years. And I've gotten mixed results throughout that entire time, when now the results I'm getting are much different from the results I started with, where it started out with almost just what I like to call an Egyptian paste blue, just a real clean, nice powder blue, and almost turquoise color. And it's really intriguing to me to see the possibilities of this one glaze over such a period of time. It's been a good amount of fun testing and seeing what this one glaze will do. Now, Raku is a family name from Japan, actually, who came up with this process of heating the pieces in a kiln while watching them without a temperature gauge, and watching the glaze mature. And then when the piece is ready, you pull it. You just watch and wait, and you know. So yeah, endless possibilities with glazes. You can do high fire glazes with any type of texture you want. And by adding different little chemicals, you can get endless types of textures, colors, effects, and then layering glazes is a whole different thing you step into. One glaze is one thing, but then you can take another glaze and either cover your other glaze or do patterns over your other glaze and end up with, I don't want to say random, but you can somewhat control it. But still, the magic of the kiln comes out, and the fire changes things. And you never know what you're going to get sometimes. How glazes will melt together, the patterns they'll create, the drips they'll create is all very unique. Each piece definitely has its own unique quality. And also, I think one of my biggest inspirations is a local guy named Tom McMillan, who's an old ship captain who was fortunate enough to, unfortunately, Beatrice Woods passed away, a local potter who's world famous for her luster wares. And he was the first to go into her studio and use all of her chemicals and her kilns and go and play with some luster glazes, and came out with amazing work. Well, clay is made up of several different natural compounds, sand and clay being a couple of them. And that really determines how firm or loose a body is, a throwing body for making specifically pottery, because there's slip casting clays and industrial clays for architectural stuff. And beyond the aesthetics of it and just the beauty that can be created with it, it's like I said, the base of civilization. It's a primal need where we're having a need met through it. So we're happy when we get our needs met, and clay meets our needs. It's brought me so much joy in my life, and just the experiences I've had, the people I've met, the things I've done through pottery, like going to Hawaii and Arizona and selling to people across the states, has been just life-changing all around. I think we were all blessed with talents in life, and we're meant to pursue those talents. And I feel like every time I get off track from pottery, I'm always brought back to it. It's just what I'm called to do.